All right, we are we are online and we have Ramlu joining us. She like almond, so hopefully she will enjoy this session as well. All right, let's
Yeah,
get started. Let me introduce Andrei first. I came across Andrei with one of our sections, and he amazed me with his capability of being able to speak clearly and compared to say people who normally speak Russia or Belarusian as a language, there is a rhythm to the language that's sort of like not going in hand with English, so it sort of influence the way word pronounced as well.
yeah,
Did you see on the screen? Did you see on the screen? You know why I laugh, right? Victor was saying the power color man is live. Right, so that's Andre. So I'm so glad that he agreed to come on the session, so that we can hopefully have fun along the way and
yeah,
publish it so other people can benefit from it. So let's start with something simple. Maybe tell us a bit about your city where you are right now.
First of all, I'd like to thank you, Sam, for this opportunity. And I was really surprised how many people in this challenge tell me about my English, that it's quite good, because I didn't consider it something quite good before. So it's a big surprise for me. Thank you for kind words, and it's a great support for me. And going back to your question about my city where I live now, I live in the in the Belarus capital suburb. Belarus capital Minsk, and I'm living in a suburb of Minsk, a small town, Dzerzhinsk. It's about 30 kilometers from Minsk.
Yeah, because I know they look up your introduction videos, and I search a bit about Belarus, and then I start to know about this city, Minsk, Minsk, and that's the first time actually I look up the country like Belarus. So you can say that you are probably the first man from Belarus that I get to know in that sense.
So there were women from Belarus.
Ah, yeah,
You,
okay, sure.
you
Yeah, I haven't met anyone, so you're the first person alive. No,
why I'm asking, because I noticed one woman from Belarus in the challenge.
oh,
So
okay.
you,
I have no
yeah.
idea who that person is. Maybe looking forward to see that person as well. Yeah. So the reason that people reflect to you that you are English in terms of quite good, sometimes it may be a compliment, but I think mainly it's when I say that, it's mainly because I can communicate with you, and mainly I can listen to you naturally, and that's about it, right? So we use the language as communication tools. Uh, yeah, and that means like I am quite interested in, for example, say if people are from the similar background, because you speak three languages and you said you speak Russian as your either primary or secondary. But what about Belarus as a Belarus as a language? Do you don't speak that like as a primary language?
Here in Belarus, we have we have two official languages. The first official language is our Belarusian language, and the second Russian. But most of the people in our country speak Russian. Maybe some young generations, some part of the young generation speak Belarusian, but they they're not it's not so big community.
Right.
Also, they still speak Russian.
Right. And even though there's differences, the tone of the language is closer between Russian and Belarusian than English. Right? Am I right?
Absolutely, they are quite similar, but people who live in Belarus and speak Belarusian, they easily understand Russian, even if they communicate Belarusian in their everyday life. But Russian, not so easy to understand Belarusian language.
Oh.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of a, one side sort of like influence, in the sense like more population speak Russian. So they can understand a bit like both.
Yeah.
But not the other way around.
Right. There is a historical ground behind this languages story. Because maybe, as you know, some time ago, we were a big country, Soviet Union, which consisted of 15 republics, and the core of the Soviet Union was Russia. And all the republics had spoken Russian and still have the national languages. And after Soviet Union fallen apart, some countries started restricting using of Russian language. They taking only one national language as official, and they force people to communicate in their native language. But here we have two languages, and a lot of people communicate Russian, and we don't see like a trend to increasing number of people speaking their native language, Belarusian.
Right. So I totally understand. In terms of like population, and the more influence from Russia, and in terms of population, it's sort of like pushing out the other language, and when it's less used, it's become like a bit more. It's gonna be pushed aside eventually. I'm not sure how long that's going to take, but that's the trend at the moment, and who knows, it can be buckled. Something might change, and the trend might shift again.
Yeah.
Right. Definitely. So with people with the similar background, what do you suggest to them in terms? I think one of the things, for example, the other day I have a pleasure to talk to our friend who are working in. Forgive me if I mention this city wrongly, but I know it's somewhere in Russia, and then with the typical pronunciation Russian, this is a bit not about accent, but in terms of the way the words and sounds are pronounced. So it's a bit harder to understand, and then I was like, okay, let's have another session. Maybe we could try to go through a bit of a pronunciation practice or something, like the person is really intelligent and very smart in a way. It's just that language barrier need to cross. Maybe you can help many people who are from similar background as yourself. Like, what breakthrough that you have done to achieve the level you are doing now?
Yes, sure. I can share the way I had before getting to this point, but I still don't consider my experience as something extraordinary.
Yeah, I think it's better. It's better be typical, because if it's extraordinary, then it's bad news. No one else can do it. Right?
Yeah.
So for that reason, we even have more reason to actually try to understand what that things that you do, and give people an option to choose.
So should we start to discover my experience? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we start with that, like what you did in terms of pronunciation. Where do you learn pronunciation from, or how do you train?
Talking exactly about the pronunciation, it's the American accent course that I've taken a couple of months ago,
Mm,
and it gave me the massive breakthrough, and my pronunciation improved a lot. And now I'm coming to understanding that reducing your accent it's a way to better communication, because
mm,
all we have our native languages, and we have sounds that don't exist in English, and in English there are lots of sounds that don't exist in our native language, and we are trying to replace English sounds by our sounds. Yeah, and when we speak English to the people from the same country who speak the same first language as you speak, they understand you pretty well, because they substituted those sounds with the same sounds, and they get it right, they get you correct. But as only you speak with other people who don't have those sounds in their language, it becomes quite hard to understand what you are talking about. It becomes more complex, because the just sounds is the first level. The second level is the stressing, intonation, linking, and without mastering some sounds, you can go further. You can link and stress sentences in a way that is natural for native speakers. So that's now I understand how important it is working with your accent.
right. I totally agree with you. So you're saying there are two things that you've been working on. The first is pronunciation, and the pronunciation is important, especially with your background, because you have more sound than English, and maybe overlapping in a sense, right? Or maybe just a bigger sound. It's like a set of sound, and then you substitute some sound in English, like not pronouncing English sound, but you substitute it with the Russian or Belarusian sound, and that's okay if you come from the same background. You would like, oh, I understand what you're talking about, but then other
Absolutely.
people was like, they would like, it's. I mean, they would try to understand too, but it's really sometimes you lose that sense of hearing. Yeah, I remember, when we speak, for example, in the setting where it's not like even basic communication. It's not that I would be able to stop you every time you say every sentence, right? It's going to be like disrupting your flow, right? I'm like, oh, can you repeat that? And then you're like, you
Yeah,
asked me to repeat my sentence at almost every sentence, and that's going to be very obstacle to understand. So most people would do in that context, they would try to pretend that they understand what you're saying, but then and then they would not, right? So
usually it's a bad idea to try to pretend that you understand.
yeah, it's probably not try to understand, but maybe you would not be able to tell, like, I don't really understand what you're saying unless it's important, right? Uh, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So I like the idea of starting with pronunciation, and then because not everyone get a chance to attend the school, and whoever want to reach out to Andre to see what school that is, and he probably can give you the more information. Um,
Yeah,
Maybe you can
absolutely.
give us a bit of glimpse into the practice that you did, like what kind of things that you are being taught to do, and practice that people might be able to maybe search from the internet and maybe able to just try themselves at home.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I can say that there is no some some secret practices. All the information you can find in the internet, and there are lots of YouTubers who provide you an information about the accent and how to become better. For example, the most of my favorites, it's Rachel's English.
Right.
So the reason why you'd like to join some course, it's to have a feedback, because practicing yourself, you don't have a feedback. You can start practicing some sounds, and it may look that you pronounce it correctly, but in reality, it's a bad pronunciation. And if you don't have a feedback, you will continue practicing wrong pronunciation. So that's the reason join the course and have a feedback. And that's exactly what I have in this course. And first of all, there was a well designed program, I would say. First of all, we practice the sounds that are different in our language, and which especially Russian people pronounce wrong. Like an H sounds, like A, like PH sounds, a lot of them. And then we started, and I forgot to mention that every home task was with an assignment to make a recording of some text and send it to the teacher, and teacher listened to it. And at the beginning of every course, sorry, Alina.
That's just okay.
Алина, я занят, пожалуйста, увидела. Нет. Sorry, it's my children.
Yes, it's okay. Hope she's doing well early in the morning.
Yeah. So where did I stop? I remember. And at the beginning of every next lesson, we listen our records and records of the whole group, and teacher said us, "Oh, pay attention to this sound. This is not correct. This is great. Do the same." And this way we had a feedback, and we could move forward and forward, practicing, knowing that this sounds is great, and I should focus on this one and this one, and in such way we continue practice. Then we switched to some rules about contractions, and special how sounds. For example, a lot of words we pronounce not the way like native speakers pronounce. For example, internet, and T letters are.
Letter R, the consonant. Okay.
Yeah. Letter T usually drops after it. Internet, usually all Russians say internet. Interaction, such kind of words, and mountain. It's healthy. A lot of flat T, like better it's specific for American. It's specific
Right.
for American water,
Yeah.
leather.
Yeah. I agree with you. The second part is a bit more like uh, location specific. Australian would do that differently. The British would do that differently, and the American would do that differently. Yeah,
Yeah,
but the first one is more universal, as in the sound, right? When you substitute one
yeah,
sound of T and you like use a different sound for T, then it's gonna go out like
yeah.
obvious to any one of these dialect. They would like that is not T, regardless. Like that's it. Okay, I would need to correct myself. That would not T in any sense. That's not T from Australia. That's not T from US. That's not T from British. I don't know
Yeah.
where that sound is. So you need to perfect that sound. Uh, so you are saying that the right point is like if you don't. I myself learned from a speech therapist in 2007. Part of it is because you don't have access to anyone who can listen to you, and then you don't know if you make the correct sound to start with, and that's a good point. So we can say if you can afford to go to school where at focusing on people who train people with the similar background, then well, it doesn't have to be people with similar background. It just help that they work with people with similar background before, and then they know what sound are commonly uh, incorrectly substitute. So then they focus on those like maybe handful of sound, not like the entire spectrum. Not every consonant, which there are lots of consonants and vowels and diphthongs, but they commonly mistakenly pronounce sounds. So that I agree with you. Do you think the cost of education? How much are we talking about roughly to see whether people can afford it?
I don't know. I think that all people can afford it. Maybe for some people it's a lot of a little bigger money than for other people, but still affordable, I would say. But I would say that in our country, very few number of people even thinking about practicing English and increasing level of their English. I don't know why. Maybe.
Do you think it's because they have no need for it? Like,
Yeah.
there's no driver. For example, we talked about this last time, the motivation part, right? And we talk about is it because I know you are like one of your introduction, you were saying that you are into self-improvement and then
Yeah.
one of your goal, like all about improvement, is about having goal, and maybe one of your goal would include being good in English for some reason, right? Because for example, you're working in the company that make use of that language, and you will have the internal drive to do well. But for other people, they may not have that need, so that could be the case. Oh, wait until maybe you have more international company.
We don't have a lot of international companies here. That's the reason. The only area where English is must have is IT companies. But we have a limited amount of IT companies, and they require quite professional people, and to get there, you should know a lot, and you not only know, but you should have a background. You should have a practical skills. It's quite hard to get into IT area country because in average it's about five 5 times salary difference.
Oh, okay, 5 times salary
Yeah,
difference. Oh, I
yeah,
see. Than the average. I see. So it's very difficult to get into this position because I can tell that people want to get into those
yeah.
positions, right?
Right.
Right. Um, so, but one thing that I notice and I can share with people is sometimes skill come first, and if you're like, for example, if you're a genius in say programming language or one of those, and then you say you know zero English, I can tell you that they would hire you. They will try to hire you, right? Because eventually, that's what matters, your skill. So that's actually
Yeah.
wow. That's a
We
good
have some,
questions.
we have some questions, I think.
Yes, you have some question. Thank you, Jesus. The question is Andrei or yeah, Andrei. Do you think that this breakthrough challenge has helped you to improve your English on any way? Well, thank you for the questions, Jesus.
It's a good question, and I will definitely say yes, it really improved. It really improved, but I've seen your interview with Felipe, I believe,
Yes, Philippe. Yeah.
in USA, and he
Yes.
said that he said that this course is for practicing conversation, for practicing English, but you have to have some basics, some knowledge to start communicate. It's like you study something. It's like a theoretical, and then you start practicing it, and you apply it to real life, and that's great. This challenge is the greatest way to apply your knowledge in English and in a real conversation, in a conversation with real people, and it's a kind of psychology matter here because, for example, some time ago I had a lot of difficulties just communicating with people, especially in English, because maybe my English wasn't so bad, but I usually stuck into one point and couldn't move further.
So you're going in loop.
Yeah, and it's a kind of maybe embarrassment or something that gets you feel uneasy about your English, and when you're saying something wrong, you start think more and more, and you don't have such connection with a person.
So now the entire time, this also come out on a TED Talk that I refer to maybe from time to time. That there is a TED Talk by the person delivered in TEDx Malaysia, and she's an English teacher, and say the first and foremost important role about communication is to connect. And if you spend a lot of time thinking about the grammar and words, and that will destroy the whole conversation.
Yeah.
So I agree with you there. So then when you join this session, this challenge, apparently initially you don't feel comfortable recording your own video, right?
Yeah. Making my videos is the hardest task for me, that taking me a lot of efforts, and I'm still uncomfortable, but it's much easier now for me making videos.
Man, that is first big steps coming on live
Sure.
session with me. That's when I look at you, I know that you are like ready and you are able to share your story with the world. That's why I love you to come on board. But knowing that you sometimes feel a bit uncomfortable with that, so I appreciate it even more. Right. So see, Jesus is very good and he's helping me asking questions. Let's go back to one previous question before we taking the last one. Jesus MTZ, what made you decide to take the challenge, or what made you decide to join the challenge? If you have any new aspect to answer.
It was a spontaneous decision, I would say, but I have a recommendations from my teacher when I finished.
Okay.
No, not about this. Not about this challenge exactly, but there were recommendations to improve my fluency and practice more my speech, because our speech we have a lot of muscles involved in this speech activities, and we read a lot, when we listen a lot, we just come to understanding of English. But when it comes to speaking, we should practice it, because a lot of muscles involved, and we should practice it to be more fluent. And it was an advice of my teacher. And by the way, can I answer the question in
yes,
the chat?
Please. Please go ahead. Go ahead and answer the questions.
It related to your question, and the question was about what I was doing before this challenge to improve my English. So I would say I visited a lot of courses, and the last one was about American accent, and I had recommendations, and I was very devoted to make myself better. And right after this course, I found voice training. By the way, it can sound weird, but it was not connected to English. It just about the voice for singers, for people who work on television, or some other people who need to have a strong voice, or to manage their voices in a good way, maybe. And it was a great experience. I needed it, because when I made my recordings, I understood that something's wrong with my voice, and when I tried to record some text a lot of time, maybe for an hour, several times I had my vocal cords damaged, and something actually did wrong. And after having recommendation about fluency and more speaking activities, I found and joined this course about voice, and it helped me a lot. It answered all my questions. I'm not automatically speak right, deep, well, but now I know for sure how to make my voice deeper, to sound better, and such things. It helped me a lot. And then right after that, I just watched Stephanie's videos, and then I stuck on the last one, and she said about lack of balance in consuming and producing English, and I thought it's exactly my situation, and as I understood that I have an opportunity to join this challenge. I joined the next day, and I'm happy with the decision.
Yes.
There were a lot of spontaneous decisions on this way, and I'm happy with the progress.
All right. There's one point that you clarified before when you know go on this voice class, and I have never gone to that class before, and then I'm curious. Can you give us a little bit of a overview of what the practice look like?
It sounds very simple. It was like marathon, and every day we had a video lesson that contained one exercise, and you should do it. You should do it at least 3 minutes. Every exercise for 3 minutes a day. And there was a recommendation that was really connected to my previous activities to make records before the exercise and right after the exercise. And after some exercises, I made the records and listened to them, and it was mind blowing. The simple exercise and the such consequences. You can hear such changes in your voice, and it's like, wow, it's me, really.
Can you show us maybe one of those exercises you can still remember? Any of
There
that?
are lots of them. There is, but there is a channel, but it's in Russian.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of exercises. They're free. The teacher promotes her courses, and there are lots of free information.
Oh.
Well, what I show you? What can I show you right now? There were lots of breathing exercises. First of all, the first thing you must breathe. It may sound obvious, but you must breathe through your nose, not by your mouth. When you're speaking and when you're reading whatsoever. The way you're breathing must be like your belly should, like you swallow the ball and it's at the bottom of your belly, at the end of the.
Oh, okay. At the end of the belly, you breathe through your nose.
Your belly like grows when you breathe in, and you push the air with your belly when you breathe out. It's the way you must breathe.
Yes. Okay, thank you for that exercise. I never heard about that exercise before. I think it's a bit hard for me to try to push the air out using the belly.
Yeah, but it's the basic of the whole exercises, because you must use your I don't know how this term, diaphragm or something.
Yeah, diaphragm. Okay, look up that word, people. I don't know what that means as well. I've heard of that. I know there's on the medicine say diaphragm something. So look it up. Jesus says you need to leave. That's okay. Jesus, thank you for your question. And also, I mean, Andrei, how good is that? You get to talk to Jesus.
Can you say it again?
No, I just say, I'm just kidding. I'm just telling you that how good is that? Like you get to talk to a Jesus.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like that's reference to Jesus and God, and you get to talk to one of them. So yeah. Sorry, that's a bad joke on my part. So
maybe.
So so you do deep voice and voice acting. People use voice for professional capability, and then you apply that to English. Would you say it gave you better advantage than not having that? Like, what about pronunciation by self? Does that help you? In terms of like, how does it help you in terms of like, let's say the pronunciation give you 60-70%, and then that add up on top maybe 20%, or what's the ratio in your mind?
It maybe 30%. It's quite a big impact, by the way, because I started sounding more confident, I would say, because when you have your weak voice, it sounds not so good, and just having deeper voice may other people feel you more fluent. And,
I agree.
When you speak with a deeper voice, it makes you more confident, and it's a kind of psychological thing. By the way, what surprised me, and I was astonished by such connection of psychology and voice issues, because I asked a question. I give a question to a teacher about the most prominent cases of changing the voices, and they all were connected with psychology. Also, because she said like a lot of women came to her with such voice like this. They were so uncertain, and they were beaten by life, and they sounded so bad. After the voice courses, she said they were like a flower. They become feel life in the other way. They become sound more natural, sound more strong, and they feel more strong. So it's definitely the best thing. The best thing for them. Just practicing voice changes your mind.
Right. I never heard of that as well. Thanks for sharing that topic in terms of like it affects your psychology of yourself, like the language, the way you express yourself actually affect your state of mind, isn't it?
Yeah. And there is two-way road. If you speak, if you feel comfortable and you feel confident, you should sound stronger, but it works, I believe, in the other way. If you start, if you feel not so confident, but you start speaking with a strong voice, you practiced before that, and you start speaking your strong voice, your confidence grows, and you become more confident just practicing the voice.
Right. So that means you're saying that if someone wants to feel better, maybe just practicing your voice to speak better, and that probably lift up their emotion state as well. The same way as I think I've heard some people teach before that when you try to smile, you can't feel bad about yourself. Like you can't be unhappy at the same time as smiling. There's no such thing. So it lifts your emotion. There were a question before related to the voices come out. Do you notice that when you speak in your native language and in English, the tonation or intonation is different and so on? How do you maintain the two language like identity in the sense where you feel like this is still yourself? Because some people have this problem, like I talked to Alex Card before, and he said, well, I speak Spanish in a different way and speak English, and it looked to him like he has two different identities. Do you have that problem? Or?
No, I don't have such problem. In my mind, I come to conclusion that it's not about my identity. practicing accent. It's not about my identity. It's my voice. It's me speaking the other language. And if I try to make it easier to understand to native speakers, why it can harm my identity. For me, that's totally okay. I'm not trying to be some people, some person to be exactly like the native language speakers, but I don't see nothing wrong in trying to sound more natural and to be more understandable.
Right. Now, that's the point that I forget to mention when you talk about class and stuff like that. It's not only the class itself, because there's a proof that, in the same class, there are, you have a team of few people who join, and then the results that come from the class are varying in terms of success level. So there must be some other factor at play, not only the class and the teacher, because the same teacher, the same class, and if that is the only factor, naturally, then everyone who goes through that class would be successful, equally successful. But then now you're seeing varying degrees of success. What do you contribute that to, like the success level, the varying degree of success?
Yeah, you can just attend the class and forget about it before the next class and be successful. My point of view, and maybe some teachers or someone told me that you should spend 2 or 3 more time to self-education, to working on the home task, home assignment after the class than the class have taken. So it must be substantial amount of time working alone and trying to go deeper into the topic discussed in the class. It's the good way of learning, and because the good way in the class that you have feedback, but the main work happens when you are with yourself, when you are alone. It's not about practicing. It's about making some basis.
Right. So you're saying it's all about practicing at home. It's all about taking in all the homework and practice, extra practice that help you get the different results. So for how long you have been in that class? Like you mentioned that it was the breakthrough to discover 4 months before joining Stephanie Fluency Challenge program. Is it 4 months?
It taking about 30 lessons, and it was maybe a little less than 3 months.
Okay, right. Wow, so that sounds like an interesting exercise. Less than 3 months, and then you get to learn a lot of things. Now, I want to discuss with you this. Sometimes you go to class. We bring up this point before that you get someone to reflect to, but let's say you can't afford it. I think if you join this challenge and you get to know some people who are from different country, maybe just another not the best but possible substitution is to talk to someone not sharing your background of your primary language, to see if they can just understand what you're saying. Then that might be a good way to ask them, like, what sound you can immediately improve. Because I think sometimes I mentioned before that the people who listen to the voice do not really have to know the person background, but can just analyze from the sound you hear and match up with whatever like they have, right? Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. Other people can tell you what word they don't understand, and you can have feedback from other people, not from the teacher. Teacher just gives you more qualified feedback, but what matters also that you should turn your sight into yourself. I would say to look into yourself and pay attention to what you're saying. Maybe make records or make records of yourself speaking with someone, or just reading the text and then maybe compare. For example, if you have audio book and you have a piece of text from this book, you can read it, record, listen, and compare to the audio book. See the difference in pronunciation. Yeah, it also works very good, I would say. It depends on your devotion to this process.
Right. I actually want to share a bit because I listened to a few pronunciation YouTube video. One of them is from what's his name? Kangaroo, Kanguro, Kangaroo English, and he dedicated a playlist about pronunciation. And one of the episodes is like in the way that mouth, your shape of your mouth, like E and E is a bit like different. And he said if you practice that mouth movement, yeah, then you look at it.
Yeah. I would say I'm at the beginning of this process. I didn't pay a lot of attention to this, but now for example, I'm practicing th sound and trying to
Okay, th.
To keep my tongue inside my mouth, because sometimes when I started looking at the mirror when I'm speaking, it was like I'm extending my tongue too much. It shouldn't be this way. Yeah, we had some instruction about the articulation in our courses. Yeah. I should admit I didn't pay a lot of attention to this point, but it really matters, and to make better some particular sounds, I'm sure I will practice this point harder.
Right. All right, and Andrei, thank you so much for your time and courage to come on a live session like this, and you maintain your posture, able to answer the question to the listener. Jesus is one of my friends. I talk often before, and thank you for Jesus' questions. Yes, we have been taking too much of the time from listener and yourself already. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Sven. Thank you, St. Paul. Thank you for such opportunities. Thank you for a great conversation and great questions.
All right, folks, we need to go. We'll see you later. Goodbye.
Bye.